Hello, my name is Richard Wald, and this is my video for the older adult presentation. My older adult, her name is Enid Kleeman. She's 82 years old, and right now she lives in a senior living center in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. She is my grandmother, and I've had a very good relationship with her over the years, so I was excited to be able to talk to her about her life experiences. And boy, did I learned a lot about her life and what she's been through, and there were several issues I wasn't even aware of. The things that stood out to me the most and the development age that she spent the most time talking about was stage 7, which is a middle adulthood. It's about 40 to 60, age 40 to 65, and it is known for its general relativity versus stagnation. Those are the crisis models. And she's, again, like I said, she spent the most time talking about that period in her life, obviously because it's pretty recent for her. Like I said, general relativity is more known for uh, the willingness to help others, the willingness to make your mark in the community, society, and of course, family. Stagnation is more known for being to yourselves. Stagnation literally means at a standstill, so it would mean that not doing anything to help others, only helping yourself, and in some cases, not even knowing how to help yourself, leading to you being, stuck in the mud. Like I said, that's stage 7 of Erickson's developmental stage framework. Some important experiences in that stage came obviously later in life, and that's what relates back to the annotated bibliography. So some of those experiences included going back to work for the first time in over 20 years. Those experiences include her first son leaving for not college, but to enter the workforce. Those experiences include her weight, struggling to maintain her weight. She used to be, I guess, as skinny as a model. Now she struggles to maintain her weight. And lastly, just other types of struggles she had in the workforce. The 4 articles I found for the annotated bibliography all relate to what I just said, the subjects of weight loss, work, and the firstborn leaving. That was a troubling time for her. She faced a lot of backlash. She had to deal with a lot of negative stereotypes about women, especially how they're perceived when they're not at home taking care of her kids. Now, for her, when she went back into the workforce later in her life, her second and third child were already in high school or about to graduate high school, so it wasn't much about raising them in that situation. But she still heard back from a lot of people about what she should have been doing and what the proper role of a woman is. And those are the type of things that have slowly started to, I guess, break away. But in some situations, in some cultures, women, I guess, are still expected to be, I guess, the housewife, not the breadwinner, and especially not making more money than the man. But those are some experiences that stood out to my grandmother: work, children leaving for college, or just leaving, and then also her experiences dealing with other people. Some of the challenges and accomplishments that she faced. Some of the challenges were her firstborn son. He's basically hasn't put his life together yet, and he's in his 50s now. He's had a lot of different types of businesses, and he's also failed at a lot of different types of businesses. So that's probably my grandmother's. She talked about how that's one of her single greatest regrets, was the fact that she wasn't able to push her firstborn son into a more productive and successful lifestyle. Some accomplishments, though, would be the second and third child she had. My mom and aunt were able to start a business, a clothing store called the Plainfield, and my grandmother went out of her way for no money. She would help, set the store up. She would help clean the store. She would help, do the books. So my grandmother went out of her way to, I guess, help out my other sibling, well, her children, and the firstborn wasn't as successful, the second and third were able to create a profitable business. Other successes or accomplishments would be her rising up the ranks of her synagogue and joining the sisterhood and eventually becoming the president of the sisterhood and other boards that are involved with the synagogue. She started off as a teacher's aide. She ended up she retired not that long ago. She went from teacher's aide to a teacher, and she was there for over 30 years. And her blueprint, her fingerprints are all over that building. Other challenges include moving because of my grandfather's inability to I guess, have success, they had to move from place to place in order to start new businesses or work for new businesses or just get out of the way of old businesses. So she talked a lot about having to move during this period of her life, and actually stage 6 too, that period of her life as well. It was more of a continuization, I'm sorry, of different other stages in her life of the moving from place to place until finally they settled in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, where they together, my grandfather and her, spent the rest of their lives until he passed away about 10 years ago. So those are some of the success and accomplishments of that time. Next, we just I guess briefly describe the crisis that my grandmother faced, and it really was right when my mom and aunt were teenagers about to go to college. Uh, my grandmother realized she had to do more. If my mom, instead of relying on aid of others, she didn't like that. She didn't like having to ask others for help, and she still doesn't. But she realized she had to break out of her shell of being, I guess, stagnant. She started to work, like I said, as a teacher's aide, and she also started to make a difference in the community and the society, mainly by moving to a new area where she was comfortable. And one of the last places was in Marlton, Willingboro, Cherry Hill, all those areas she lived in for a certain period of time. And that was different from where she grew up from and where she was before that in Camden, Pennsauken. Camden, Pennsauken are more lower economic places. Where she moved to was a little bit higher economic, and she also moved to places where she was around people similar to her, similar types of backgrounds, similar ethnicities, and things like that. My grandmother used a lot of racial, stereotypical type of terms to describe her time in Camden and Pennsauken, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But her struggle really was uh, breaking out of the environment she was in and moving to one where she would be more successful. And that's what they did. They moved, I believe it was to Willingboro from Pennsauken, and that is such a major, though not the distance is less than a half hour, the different types of people and populations are drastically different. And she was able to find friends similar and work with those friends. Like I said before, she was able to work with the synagogue and make contributions through volunteer work and through pushing other departments to, I guess, be a little less lenient, maybe help save some money for some of the parents who weren't able to, dish out all the money needed for Hebrew school. It's not cheap. So she was one of the main people who talked to the administration and said, you got to work with the family, you got to work with the parents, because we need the people here and we want them to be able to grow with the Jewish religion. So one of the main struggles that she had was breaking out of her shell, the stagnation, and then being able to think the big picture, think of all the ways she could be successful and all the ways she could help others. And when she was able to do that, she was like a rocket. She just flew off and was able to do a lot of different things to make a lot of different lives a lot better, including my mom and my aunt. Without my grandmother's help, their store likely would not have come up from the bottom to the success that it once was. Next, we'll talk about, I got a couple minutes on this video, some of the things that helped her hurt the crisis, her breaking out of her shell. The religion aspect, that definitely helped to facilitate it, helped break her out of her stagnated shell. She was able to work through the synagogue to accomplish, like I said, so many different things. She still isn't that, she's religious, but she's not the first person to, I guess, boast or to try and educate people about the benefits of being, the Judaism religion. But she knew that she could work through that synagogue to make a difference and help out a lot of different other people in a lot of different other ways. So religion played a big part of her, facilitating her, I guess, breaking out of the stagnation. Some things that hurt it would include where she lived. She wasn't, before, the synagogue and religion and just moving out to Willingboro, she wasn't sure, and she wasn't able to. She was able to convince my grandfather, let's move to Willingboro. But for so many years, she wasn't able to convince him because that would have meant him losing business elsewhere. So she was, I don't want to say stuck, but she was in Camden and Pennsauken areas around there, and she didn't know how to get out. She didn't know she didn't know anyone around her. She wasn't friendly or comfortable with the situation of where she was. So I would definitely say the ethnicity of the other people around her scared her. Again, I'm not saying that type of population is in danger, they're going to do dangerous things, but my grandmother did believe that they were capable of dangerous acts. I'll continue this in the next video. Thank you.